Dwarves. Known for their talents in mining and smithing, these short and bearded mythical men are filled with lots of personality. Or as Wikipedia would put it, they're sometimes described as short and ugly. Sadly, we live in a world where there just isn't enough love for dwarves in video games. And apparently Wikipedia. But there are a few video games that feature dwarves in them. You've got Dwarf Fortress. If looking at this game makes any sense to you, congrats, I don't know what's going on. Due to the graphics of this game, you don't really get a very detailed and impressive view of your dwarves. Also, you have to deal with wonderful issues such as alcohol dependency, and according to the Dwarf Fortress wiki, dwarves cannot be tamed, so good luck with that one. There's dwarfs, which is grammatically confusing and mildly upsetting. Okay, so this is while I'm editing the video, and just a quick thing, I learned that there are two plurals for dwarf. Grammatically, the correct one is dwarfs, with the FS. But in a fantasy setting, it's more correct to say dwarves. So I will be doing that. Also, some mission control quotes in DRG use dwarves, so I will be using dwarves. That's it. That's the whole thing. Go to the video, me. But the gameplay's pretty fun. It's a bit bare bones for me, and it doesn't really get into that dwarven lifestyle we find ourselves craving. And also, there's a game of dwarves. It's kind of like Dungeon Keeper, but not as critically acclaimed and featuring significantly more dwarves. And I'm pretty sure these are the dwarves Wikipedia is talking about. Obviously, DRG is my personal favorite dwarf-filled game, and I would like to say it's probably the best game with dwarves in it. There's a lot to do with what makes it such a great space dwarf life sim, so here's a video of me talking about why some dwarves in space are cool for like 10 minutes. It's riveting stuff, I know. You can't have a dwarf without lots of personality to make up for the small amount of space they fill. And that's one of the areas where DRG shows it was a dwarf design philosophy major. From what I can tell, a lot of the decisions behind designing these dwarves came from this niche indie game called Team Fortress 2. From the gameplay to the classes and even weapon diversity, Deep Rock just gives me that Valve game feel, which is a feeling that rarely occurs now. Some of the overclocks in DRG are just straight up mechanics from TF2, and as someone who played a little bit of TF2 in their time, it's nice to have bits and pieces that remind me of one of my favorite games. Similar to the classes of Team Fortress, the classes in DRG are voiced, and they constantly make funny remarks filled to the brim with personality.
Go, little man, go! Wreck my guts, Lloyd! Chop, chop! Bloody hell! Put those blasted things out of their misery! I'm so glad to announce that I found some Bismol. Steve is dead! Long live Steve! One more explosive popcorn monster for my belt. I'm gonna wear this in honor of Carl. Go roll on the highway, you freak!
It really makes you want to play as these characters to just hear what they say. You can thank Mikkel and Jacob at Ghost Ship Games for all the fantastic player voice lines in the game. Go send them a message on Discord and be like, hey, you're a funny guy. Thanks for the funny, dude. The humor of DRG fits in that good comedy sweet spot where it isn't trying way too hard to be funny or it isn't being too serious on the other side of the spectrum. Also, a cool little design thing. Certain voice lines are rarer than others, which is a really smart choice. It makes some of the voice lines feel a lot less repetitive and annoying, and some of the more rare ones way more fun to hear. If every time you killed a shellback you heard the voice line "Die Space Lobster," it would probably be really annoying. But since it's pretty rare, I'm usually quite happy to hear this small man scream about a lobster. Moving on from the lobster talk and going back to TF2, the game has these little voice commands that you can select via some keybinds, and those keybinds have all sorts of choices. While some players do use it, and it does work, the menu system for these voice lines is honestly way too unintuitive for most players, and especially new ones. I just don't understand why it functions like this. It was a really weird design choice. While it's comprehensive in the amount you can communicate, it ends up being its downfall because it's just too difficult to memorize the keybinds, and who is going to reach over to press any of these numbers on the other side of the keyboard? DRG takes this team communication system and boils it down into 2 easy buttons, X to shout and V to salute. It's super memorable and really simple, but the salute that the game and art directors decided on is truly what makes it easy to remember, and that salute is
Stone and rock! Oh, wait. Rock and stone!
Rock and Stone is a huge part of the identity of Deep Rock and the dwarves that work for the company. When you look at the phrase rock and stone, it really does make no sense, but it is pretty fun to yell it, and I think that's probably why they chose it. Ghost Ship created Rock and Stone as a catchy and memorable phrase to push a better team play experience, giving the dwarves a way to communicate that was non-specific, but it was positive. And that's the main reason why Rock and Stone works so well. It gives players a single button press that basically means anything positive. It could be a greeting, a celebration, a thank you, or a way to say good job. There is no way for Rock and Stone to be insulting, unless they're being thrown at you. To some it may seem like Rock and Stone is just a meaningless addition to the game, but I'd say it adds so much character and solidifies the leave no dwarf behind motto with a single tap. It's a great way to improve a co-op game and puts you in the mindset of these dwarves working together to keep each other alive. Another way to put yourself in the shoes of a dwarf is to make him your own. And by that I mean make him have jaundice. DRG supplies a metric ton of cosmetics that you can collect by just playing the game. Alright, I'm gonna sound absolutely ancient here, but cosmetics are important to the progression of a video game, and I wish they weren't sold for real money most of the time. If no one cared about cosmetics, people wouldn't pay $15 to be virtual Travis Scott. The ability to get the majority of the cosmetics in DRG without paying for them is such a nice change of pace from the current business model of, please mom, let me buy Travis Scott Fortnite please. DRG does have a couple of cosmetic DLC packs, but compared to most methods of selling cosmetics now, this feels the most customer friendly. Basically, cosmetics are really important to games, but especially Deep Rock. A lot of that has to do with the variety of cosmetics available. You got hats, skin colors, hair colors, armor sets, victory moves, armor skins, pickaxe parts, pickaxe skins, weapon frameworks, weapon paint jobs, eyebrows, sideburns, mustaches, and of course beards. Lots of beards. This game is a build-a-dwarf workshop of cosmetics. It is just so fun to dive into the wardrobe with a full lobby and create the most rancid and crusty dwarven men possible, and then make your team suffer when they have to look at them. I think I've mentioned this in a previous video, but me and my friends have spent hours just doing this. My favorite dwarf I've made so far is my engineer. I don't think he's gross, I just think he looks sick. And then on the gross side we have my driller, who I have dubbed Butter Braids. I bet you're wondering, okay idiot, how many cosmetics are there? First of all, ouch. Second of all, there's at least a couple of them. So overall, I think there's 362 cosmetics in the game, and there will be 401 in the game after Update 32 drops. There's also 6 Basu skins and frameworks, and there's 45 DLC cosmetics to add to that, but you get the idea that there's a lot of cosmetics in the game. Cosmetics are a huge portion of the progression in DRG, and the game wouldn't be anywhere near as charming or rewarding without them. They are so important to the game that there's even a subreddit for Deep Rock fashion. Now I know it's pretty unbelievable that Reddit and fashion can be remotely related, but look, these are some fashionable dwarves. It's a great subreddit, check it out. Before Deep Rock Galactic, I didn't know how great it could be to customize my very own short funny beard man, but Deep Rock has definitely filled that very specific void. The immense amount of personality and customization in DRG makes playing as a dwarf way more fun than it really should be. Even if Wikipedia thinks you're ugly, that's okay. With game mechanics like Rock and Stone, it's so easy to become these characters and do these missions like you were the dwarf all along. You become attached to your disgusting amalgamation of facial hair that you made at 2 in the morning. Your dwarf becomes part of your identity, and my identity is having jaundice, and also a purple beard. Thank you so much for watching. Rock and Stone.